Hello, I'm a new student in here, and I'm very glad to stand here and give you a short speech. And today I'm going to talk about outline the coastal city. And the first I want to show my questions is that how can we develop the outlands coastline area as a part of city, and also to protect the outland residents' coastal lifestyle. And before I talk about my topic, about years ago I arrived New Zealand and started my international student journey. And when I arrived here, the first imagine of Auckland City is that so beautiful, and the city is all around by sea, especially in the perspective view of the plan, like these pictures. We own the Travelers coastline views. Actually, according to the City Council's data, show that about 70% of Auckland Regional consists with coastal water, and perhaps Auckland is the city on the most beaches in the world. But I found the most beaches in Auckland still in the intentional development of the original state, and even some beaches because lack of protections are destroyed or contaminated by the natural disaster or man-made reasons. And also because of those beaches, the lack of the infrastructure or transport, resulting many beaches unknown or just the local residents know about that. So for the domestic or international tourists, this is it's a pity, and even those places may be able to a part of our city's development area in the future. So can we develop those potential economy results as a driving forces of Auckland future urban plans? And there is the map also show us about the main area of Auckland City. It's also close to the eastern coastline, and each of Auckland people live not far from the sea, and people also enjoying living near the coast area and playing, relaxing on the beaches. And we have a lot of activity on that area. So, however, since the Auckland city become much bigger than before, and more and more people want to come here, living here, and our Unitec plan want to deal with some issue about the transport and the infrastructure. So in future, our Unitec plan advise us to be a competitive city. So maybe we will lose this kind of coast lifestyle in the future. And to analyze and research those questions, I found two case studies. And the first one, the city named Gold Coast and located in Australia. And to see this city's history, and in 1981, the city is just a small city with population of 0.1 million, and it's not a special. It don't have some special character to describe the city. But with the city's development and the natural geography factor determine the Gold Coast will be a coast city. People want to live nearby the sea, no matter the landscape or the view. And also the local government and the council realize this advantage, and so they start to develop the coastline space as a tourism industry area. And they built a lot of projects on that, over 40 kilometers of beaches, which including the theme park, the natural park, or the hotel, or the golf course. And also resulting that development, resulting that decision, they got some achievement from this area, and a lot of benefit from the coastline area development, and those are their things. Another one is a city named Miami and located in Unitec. There are some messages I've searched from the internet, I'm not sure, but in the middle of the 1970s, there is even no snow on the Miami beaches. And also because the city development so rapidly, so some beaches already be polluted. And same like Gold Coast City Council. The local government also noted that the coastline space are so important for this city's future development. So they start two projects for this area. One is beaches nutrition, which means to protect the beaches environment, and another one is to start contribute the infrastructure and other things on the coast space at the city's area, and then they also get a benefit from those decisions, and also improve the local cities images. So cases like those two cities are showing us the way to the development of the coast city, whether it's using its own geography advantage or for their own developed lands. But you may say the Auckland are different from those two cities because we have a different location, different situation about the population of our environment. So if we want to develop our coast regional as a tourism industry area, we may have a lot of challenges for that, especially for the local resident aspect. Some people do not like you touch their beach area, and there are also some cases show us about that situation. So how can we deal with those things? In my opinion, I think through the concept of the ecotourism-based ecological design to identify the character of the design for Auckland City Council would be a good way. And the ecotourism is a form of tourism, but through the natural environment and environmentally ways to offer the tourists for that place. And also the ecotourism has some advantage to us. We can get a lot of benefit from this idea. And also there are cases show us about ecotourism bring a lot of benefit for the natural environment development through the environmentally and friendly ways. And also through those activities, they can protect the local environment and teach the tourists to recognize the value of nature. And in the other hand, they also get a benefit from the tourists in order to build a better environment for the local development. This case is located in Unitec. Another one is ecological design. From the words show us it's a mean of any form design that minimum environmentally destructive impact during the whole life cycle, which means we use the ecological ways to design the new area, but do not effective local ecosystem. And there are cases show us about this idea. The park is located in Copenhagen, Denmark, and this project they created a new place and construction with the original state and built a new ecosystem. And through this design, landscape texture can improve the local ecological health and recognize that the condition of the landscape will change over time. So my project also want to build a virtual circle system through build the coastline area, improve our cities development in the future, and also protect our coastline lifestyle. And in the next step, I will choose some seed for my project test. And this is so far I'm doing.
Thanks very much, Alex. Okay. Let's keep off.
It is a really interesting topic, I think, because the coastline is often reserved in New Zealand for the wealthy to live in, and it's not very accessible, as you point out, to the public or to the tourist. So I think the idea of how can you do a sensitive development of the beaches, or some of the beaches, or a network of beaches, is really very interesting. I think of places like Hawaii, which is very strongly built up along the edge, and yet it's permeable at the lower level. So there's sort of ways of managing the potential conflict between public and private. So I just think that is very interesting. The only thing I would say is that Aucklanders as a category, Aucklanders lifestyle, it's not monolithic. Like the beaches are East Coast, West Coast, rich beaches, poor beaches, blonde beaches, black sand beaches. You know, there's a sort of there's a differentiation in the beaches, as there is a strong multicultural aspect to Aucklanders and therefore their lifestyles.
That would be a topic in itself almost, wouldn't it? It's interesting,
Yeah, who can swim? You know, it's very interesting when you ask people, can you swim?
And that rugged nature of West Coast and the different level of accessibility. I think I don't really have a lot to add to that. I think it's really interesting, and it's made me think quite a lot, but I'm not quite sure how to articulate that at the moment, just in terms of the examples you've looked at, like the Gold Coast and Miami, and you know how those cities have grown and changed in that space of time. And
I think Alex's sort of thought was, you came to Auckland, came to the beaches, but there's no tourists. We don't need to have tourism on Auckland beaches. Here's the hotel, here's the
there's a lot of
But
it's not
they're
definitely not that
actually
huge.
fantastic beaches. But and so maybe could tourism be used as a way of driving or responding to some of this population pressure? But then obviously can be done in all sorts of ways.
And I like that you're thinking about the eco-design aspect of it as well. So that probably would hold a lot more appeal in a New Zealand context than becoming Gold Coast.
I think, just picking up those points, I think it's really interesting. What I think, if I understand correctly, what you're saying is that there are certain spaces, certain beaches that this type of, I personally don't like the Gold Coast in the south, but the concept of what you're trying to get at is that there's ability for tourists to engage in that space and enjoy the benefits of those types of beaches. Yet at the same time, I think what you're saying is there are other spaces and other beaches that should be left for those more wild engagement spaces like you showed in Costa Rica. And I think what you're sort of highlighting to me is the specificity of going through and defining which of these beaches and what values do we associate with each of these beaches, and which beaches it may be okay to do this and others it's not okay to do this. And I think that type of discussion we've never really engaged in New Zealand. I take the point, Sarah, is the coast is usually for wealthy people who can afford to live there, and there's a discussion about, well, maybe some of these spaces are okay to allow it to go a bit more intensive, but others are not, and we just push it away and say no, you can't touch it. So I think it's an interesting discussion.
I agree. I think there's definitely space for a range of different responses to it, and Mount Maunganui is probably the closest thing that we have to the Gold Coast. That's probably the closest thing we have, and I mean, you can make your own assessment of whether that's good or not. But it's how do you protect the values that are in those places to maintain the integrity of those experiences and still allow for what you're promoting. So it is an interesting project.
Thanks very much, Alex. That's great.